Hey there, John here with Eye Candy. In this week's video, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks on how to paint an LS intake. I hope this is helpful to somebody, and once again, if there's any other questions, just feel free to let me know in the comments. So after you pull your intake off, you're going to want to deep clean this intake. So I used Dawn dish soap and a Scotch-Brite to really scrub all the grease and grime off your intake. You need to do this step, and it's probably the most important step to avoid fish eyes and other contaminants from getting in your paint. After the intake is clean, go ahead and let the intake dry or blow it off with compressed air. And now you're ready to start sanding. So if you look at the intake, there's several stamping marks from where it came out of the mold, and the texture on it is just overall pretty rough. So if you were to paint over that or even prime over that, it wouldn't be a very smooth surface and it wouldn't look very smooth. All of these steps can be done by hand. If you have a 3-inch sander or a dual action sander, you can use that in some spots. And that's what I did because I was trying to do this in a hurry. I just have a little 3-inch sander here with some 320 grit sandpaper, and I just roughed out a lot of the hard texture and these circle stamping marks, or injection marks actually. While you're sanding, periodically feel to see if it is smooth or if those injection marks are still there. If you can feel it, you're gonna see it in the end product, and you don't want that. And do your best not to dig too much and to keep it as flat as you can. It's really hard on a round surface like this that's just kind of oddly shaped. But just do your best to sand it as uniform as possible. Once you've got it all smoothed out and all those stamping marks are gone, we're going to go ahead and switch grits. And so since we were at a 320, we're going to move up to like a 400 or a 600. In this case, I think I jumped right to a 600 because I didn't have a 400. I like wet sanding. I just think it's cleaner and it does cut faster. It makes the sandpaper last a decent amount of time because it keeps the sandpaper clean. However, you don't want to just sand with just the paper, so in this case it may look like I'm just sanding with the paper, but I do have a piece of Scotch-Brite wrapped in that paper, and I would recommend doing that to avoid cutting edges and making smooth transitions. At this point, we're just trying to take out the sand scratches from sanding with the 320, so you're not really doing much more than that. But after you get done with your 600, I would recommend taking up to 800 because in this case, I'm going to take it straight to sealer instead of priming and resanding. So jumping into some of the materials that you're going to need, if you're not familiar with auto body materials and paints, don't be scared of them. You need to do some research because they are very expensive and you don't want to waste your money. Although that shouldn't deter you from doing a project like this. So there should be auto paint stores relatively close to wherever you live. O'Reilly's sells automotive paint. You're going to want 2K products. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using rattle can or spray paint, but you can. I just would recommend using a 2K product if you're going to do that. I can explain more on auto body paint materials, more for like a beginner level later, but for now, for this video, I'm just gonna jump right into more of the painting as if you understand and know how it works. Please feel free in the comments below if that's something that you want to know or understand a little bit more. I'm happy to go into it. But one big thing is no matter what products you're using, if you're new or even used to using them, you really need to know your product data sheets, and those will tell you your dry times and what you can and cannot do and what temperatures you need to be spraying in, and as long as you follow those, you should be okay. So when I was masking these injector holes, I just mainly put the tape on there and got a good seal, and then took a razor blade or X-Acto knife and cut out right around the injector hole where I wanted it to be. Now you're going to want to find something sturdy to set it on while you're painting it. I used a board and some masking paper to keep the dirt from blowing back up at me. Then you're going to want to do one final clean. Here I'm using a wax and grease remover, and I sprayed it on to really saturate it and wipe it all clean. And after that, you're just going to want to go ahead and blow off all the wax and grease remover to make sure that it's completely dry and evaporated, and wipe it down with a tack cloth, and you're ready to start spraying your first coating. So the first coating you're going to want to put on is adhesion promoter, and they're typically clear and you can't really tell exactly how it's going on. You don't want to put it on generally super wet, but you definitely want to get it on there. And here, how I spray this intake, I really wanted it to all get in the nooks and crannies, so I spent a little time kind of getting good coverage in there, and then I just went over the whole thing just to get good coverage. Here I moved the spray pattern down to like a bullet pattern, similar to what you would find in like a spray paint can, just to really get down in where like the injectors go and those little crevices. But you'll see me kind of back off and just give the whole thing dust over, and yeah, make sure you let that flash off as you will with all the coatings, and then we'll move on to sealer. Now I'm spraying primer sealer, which you want this to look texture wise, you want the same orange peel that you're going for on your clear coat, because this is the first layer that really matters on the texture of your whole paint job. And that kind of goes across the board for painting anything automotive related. But here I'm just doing the same as I was with the adhesion promoter. I'm getting in all the nooks and crannies, and then I end up just going over the whole thing and just making sure I got the texture that I'm really looking for. And you want good coverage as well. This particular product I needed to wait 20 to 30 minutes before I could put base coat on, but always refer to your technical data sheets on how long you should wait. So now we have base coat, and I'm going to spray it basically the same I've sprayed everything else. Just want to get good coverage. This base coat it took I think 2.5, 3 coats to get it to really cover nice. But that could vary. Just watch how things are reacting and look for coverage. Sometimes it helps to turn the booth lights off after you've let it flash off and look at it with a light to see if it's totally covered. I didn't film the clear coat mainly because I didn't want my camera lens to get destroyed, but I put 2 coats of clear on and they laid down pretty nice and it looked pretty good. So here's the intake in all of its glory. The only thing left to do is clean up the fuel rail, put it back together, and put it on the car. For the fuel rails, I just scuffed them with red Scotch-Brite and wax and grease remover, masked them off, and shot them with some black high-temp paint. And then I just reassembled the intake and injectors and put it back on the car. In my opinion, painting an intake is just an awesome accent that ends up just making the whole engine bay just kind of pop. You could paint it whatever color you wanted. In this case I went with the body color, but you could airbrush it. You could really, the possibilities are endless, and it's a small enough piece that, you know, it won't take you a whole ton of time, and if it does, you know, so be it. But I hope this inspires somebody to work on their own project and just make something cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, comment, and consider subscribing, all the normal YouTube stuff. Alright, till the next time, guys.